Good evening, fuckers. I've got to stop doing that. It's fucking killing my head every time I do it. What a flying start. Well, we are here with the first music video for over 2 years. Indeed, this is a video that I was supposed to have done over a year ago. But we are here now at long last, so, you know, good things come to those who wait and all that shit. So for this one, we are going to, I say we, it's just me for this. The first music video I've ever done where it is just me. Aren't you lucky? Yeah, I can hear the cheers from here. So for this one, I will be ranking the discography of Bolt Thrower, who are without doubt the greatest death metal band to have come from these shores. And if you ask me, they walk into the top 3 of like greatest death metal bands of all time from, you know, anywhere in the world. And it makes ranking their discography quite difficult because Bolt Thrower did not do shit albums at any stage. Yes, some are better than others, but to actually get them into a definitive order that has me thinking, yeah, that's right, yeah, that was quite tough going. But I think I've managed it. Just. Now, for this list, I'm only going to be ranking their 8 studio albums. There are a few others that will not count because, well, they did a live album. There are a few compilation albums as well. Well, sort of compilation albums. Anyway, we'll make a start and go through these honourable mentions straight on. So the first of the the honourable mentions is Who Dares Wins. This album came out, I think it was just after or just before, around the time that the For Victory album came along. What this basically is, they're 2 EPs, so the Cenotaph EP, the Spearhead EP, and a couple of unreleased tracks. So it wasn't recorded as, you know, a bona fide album, and therefore for me it doesn't count. It's not going to be included in the listing here. By Bolt Thrower standards, the cover is pretty plain. I mean, I can think of 1,000,001 metal bands where, you know, a cover like this would easily be their best, but yeah, it's not up there with you know, Bolt Thrower's standard. If we look at the back cover, we get the track listing. So it starts, yeah, with Cenotaph. So we then get Destructive Infinity and Prophet of Hatred. Those 2 songs were the bonus tracks on the CD versions of Realm of Chaos and Warmaster. And then we get the rather poor quality, it has to be said, live version of Realm of Chaos. So those 4 tracks made up the Cenotaph EP. Then we get Spearhead Extended Remix. Yes, really. It certainly is extended. It's over 8 minutes long. A bit too long, if you ask me. The original one is about, I think it's just shy of 6 minutes. Even that one goes on a little bit too long for me, but you know, you're never going to hear me say Spearhead is not a good song. So yeah, stick with the original. So then you have Crown of Life, Dying Creed, Lament. They were the other 3 songs on the Spearhead EP. They were all recorded around the same time, so around the time that they were doing the Fourth Crusade album. And then we get the two, well, I'll call them new tracks for this one, previously unreleased tracks, shall we say. So you start with World Eater 94. I mean, it's World Eater, you know, the song that defined Bulk Thrower. It was, you know, whenever you went to a Bulk Thrower gig, and I went to at least half a dozen, it was not a proper gig until World Eater had been performed. The 94 version is good, but it's not a patch on the original. The original, you know, appears on the heaviest album ever recorded. Need I say more? Yeah, the original appeared on, you know, the heaviest album of all time. This version, because it doesn't have that sound, my initial reaction is always, this doesn't sound anywhere near as good. I mean, it's still fucking heavy as fuck only knows what, but yeah, it doesn't have that original, you know, it doesn't have the impact that the original does. So it's good, but there's better. And then Overlord, which is another good song. Not quite sure why it didn't make the cut as far as Fourth Crusade goes, but it didn't. So yeah, so that is the Who Dares Wins album. So it's an also ran. It wasn't you know, recorded as a bona fide studio album, so it doesn't count. Neither does this. So this is yes, Live War, the one and only live album that Bulk Thrower did. The cover is okay. I don't have an image of the back cover, so yeah, you only get this. But there is one big reason why I don't like this album. This was recorded during the tour to support the Fourth Crusade. I can't remember what year that was. 90. It might have been 94. Actually, I think it was a bit earlier than that. 92. Yeah, great album, great tour. I saw them twice on that tour. But if I was to read out the track listing for this album, because even though I haven't got the image of it, I do have the track listing. You may notice that yeah, what the problem is with this album here. So the track listing is, it starts with the Fourth Crusade, goes on to Dying Creed and Spearhead, Unleashed, Ritual, Where Next to Conquer, War Master, As the World Burns, and it finishes with Cenotaph. Finishes. There is no World Eater on this album, and like I said just a couple of minutes ago, it's not a Bulk Thrower show until they've done World Eater. So to release a live album and not have that on there is just one almighty fuck up as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, not great. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of live albums anyway. An album has to be something pretty special, well, a live album, for me to sort of really get on with it, and yeah, I just don't. Not this one. The last also ran that I'm going to be showing is, yeah, the Peel Sessions, 88 to 90. Bulk Thrower did 3 sessions for the John Peel show. This one has all 3 of them. Yeah, that image looks terrible. I mean, the cover's quite plain. It's not as bad as that image shows. I mean, look at the W there. Yeah, what a mess. So yeah, front cover is pretty forgettable stuff. You know, the logo, and that is it. There is no artwork of any kind. As far as the track listing goes, we have the back cover here. So the first 4 songs were from their very first John Peel session. This was with their original vocalist, Alan West. And they were a very different band then. They were not death metal at all. Nevertheless, 4 great songs, and for completionist's sake, it would certainly be worth getting. so that you can hear how they sounded with their original singer. I'll tell you now, I don't think he's a patch on Carl Willits, but you know, for the music that they were playing then, he's not terrible. So the next four were recorded, yeah, when they had done the Realm of Chaos album. Track number 8 there, Domination, is the only song from this entire like compilation that did not appear on a studio album. Don't know why it didn't. It's not bad. I mean, it's not as good as any of the songs that made it on the Realm of Chaos, which could well explain why it didn't. But I mean, it's all right. So I mean, it could well be worth getting this just for that song. Then the final session they did is 3 songs from the War Master album. Not a big surprise, and also it's not all, because Lost Souls Domain is on there, and that was not from War Master. That was from Realm of Chaos. But yeah, there you go. So the last of the also rans, well, the last one as far as those that I've got images of, there is a fourth, which was the best of Boltfire, which was nothing more than a shameless cash grab by Earache Records. Boltfire had long since moved from Earache Records, and yeah, it was quite blatant. Earache didn't have anything like the sort of bands that they used to have, and so they were trying to yeah, sort of get a bit of a cash grab, you know, from the days when they were relevant. Entirely cynical. I don't think it deserves any kind of like positive mention, so I didn't even bother looking for the artwork for it, the album cover for it, because yeah, fuck that fucking thing. So those are the also rans. Now, as I was saying, yeah, trying to actually rank Boltthrower's proper studio albums is extremely difficult. They didn't release shit albums, but anybody who is, you know, a fan of Boltthrower will have no doubt watched several such videos as this one, where they are ranking the various where you're ranking the entire discography. There are always 2 albums that appear as the bottom 2, and there is certainly always 1 album that appears at the bottom. And I'm not breaking with that almost tradition. Yes, in 8th place I have On a Valid Pride. So I suppose you could say, yes, it is the worst album Boltthrower did. I mean, describing it as the worst is a bit harsh. It's still a good album. It's still a seriously fucking heavy death metal album. So there's a lot of things right about it, but there are 2 things that are the reason why I always put this last. This was a no-brainer. This was definitely going last on my list as far as, you know, what I consider the best. The first reason, and it's the big reason, there's no Carl Willits on this album. Carl Willits had left, and I mean, his voice was the defining thing that made Boltthrower really stand out. Without him doing the vocals, it just not Boltthrower for me. So for this album they got Dave Ingrams, who was the vocalist for Benediction. Well, he was the second vocalist for Benediction. The original vocalist was Mark Greenaway before he left to completely ruin Napalm Death. So yeah, I mean, Dave Ingrams I mean, he's not a terrible vocalist, not by any stretch. He's just not Carl Willits. You know, it's as simple as that. Besides which, these days, Dave Ingrams is a preacher for the Church of Satan. Or in other words, he's a fucking festering cunt. So yeah, I don't have a great regard for him. So that is problem number one with this album. Problem number two, this album suffers from what I call CD syndrome. There are a few bands that have this problem. The worst by a fucking mile are Metallica. They really have this problem bad. And that is that just because a CD can have up to, I think it's 79 minutes of music, does not mean you have to put 79 minutes of music on there. You look at two of the greatest like thrash metal albums ever recorded. So you've got Nuclear Assault Survive and you've got Slayer's Rain in Blood. Those two albums, right, they are both less than half an hour long, but it is still the perfect length for those two albums. If you want more, play the album again. Simple as that. I mean, those two albums combined, their running time is shorter than this album. And it doesn't need to be that long. The songs all sound as though they've been made longer in order to extend and make them longer just for the sake of it. And it's not needed. So, yeah, that is where... Well, on top of the lack of Carl Willis, that is where the album really sort of falls down. The songs are too long, the album's too long, you haven't got Carl Willis singing. It is, yeah, it's a no-brainer for me. This is number 8 on the list. If we go on to the back cover, you can see that I've got the LP version here, and it shows how long this fucking album is, that it needed to be a double LP. So I will admit I do quite like the way that they spread out the title track here. The album Honor, Valor, Pride, instead of just having the one song with that title, they put 3 songs on here. So one is Honor, one Valor, one is Pride. Of those 3, I would say Valor is probably the best. None of them particularly stand out for me as being the greatest of death metal songs. But you know, they still have their moments. There is one song in particular that does stand out for me on this album, and that is why that is the song that you are about to hear, because I forgot to mention, once I've named the album and where it is on the list, we will be hearing an entire song from said album. So, yeah, if you are not familiar with the band, this will give you a pretty good chance to become familiar with the band. Well, so the theory goes anyway. So yeah, that song is Inside the Wire, and that is the song that you are about to hear. So there we go. Yes, so that was Inside the Wire. I mean, it's a great song. Um, it's it's not up there with the best of Boltra, but yeah, it's certainly got its merit. But I do wish Carl Willis was singing on it. Still, you can't hear everything. So there you are. So number 8, then, Honour, Valour, Pride. Yes, I've never seen a Boltra video where they're ranking the albums, where this album has not been in 8th place, and yeah, it kind of deserves it, Sorry to say. So we go on to number 7, and at number 7 I have the debut album, In Battle There Is No Law. And okay, let's cut to the chase. There is one big reason why this album is in 7th place. The production on it is terrible. Although there's kind of a reason for it. Firstly, Boltra at this time were not a death metal band. They were a weird sort of hybrid. So it was a mixture of grindcore, hardcore, even crust punk. There was some very, very small sort of amounts of death metal in there, but not a great deal. So if you were to, start listening to this album expecting a death metal album, I think that is actually one of the reasons why a lot of people rather dismiss it. And like I say, the production doesn't help much either. This album was released, and produced and everything by Vinyl Solutions. This was the first album Vinyl Solutions ever recorded. They were just a distributor, and they really didn't have much idea as to how to go about actually, creating an LP. And Boltra just sort of agreed to be, the guinea pigs, as it were. It does kind of show that Vinyl Solutions didn't really know what they were doing. But here's the big thing. The songs on this album are all so good that I can certainly look beyond the production. Yes, the production is terrible, but let's face it, the production on And Justice for All is terrible, and yet there are plenty of people out there who will tell you that it is a fucking great album, which it is. This kind of suffers from it in the same way, although the production here is far worse than the production on And Justice for All. And this was not because the band wanted this album to sound like this. All the members of Boltra said, yeah, production on it is awful, but, they were young, they just wanted the album out there, they wanted to have an album recorded, so, this is what they got. I had bought this album. I don't know if it was on the week release. It was certainly on in the first month of it coming out. I didn't know it had been recorded or anything, but I was at Shades, the record shop in London on Wardour Street. No, I saw it there. Thought, well, there's no way they're going to get this anywhere in Southend, so I just grabbed it and. Yeah, and the rest is history, as they say. So the front cover, it's not bad. I'd prefer it if it wasn't monochromatic. Although that said, I don't know if it would really work if it was in colour. So yeah, I'm in two minds about it. Bits of it are all right. Bits of it, I just think no, you could do without that, yeah, it's okay, let's leave it at that. Onto the back cover. So here we have the track listing, and I mean, God, this song just has so many greats that very quickly became classics, within extreme metal. The title track, Challenge for Power, Forgotten Existence, fantastic song that. Denial of Destiny, again, another fantastic song. Blind to Defeat, these are all legendary songs within extreme metal. Side 2, it's more of the same. Concession of Pain is about the only song that wasn't instantly recognisable to Boltrar fans. I think that was one of the newer ones. Attacking the Aftermath, everyone knew. Psychological Warfare was already a legendary song among Boltrar fans before this album came out because of their previous demos. Nuclear Annihilation is a song that I've heard several people say that they're not so keen on it as an album ending song. They don't like the way that the song actually does end. I think it works really well, so I disagree with that. I think it's a great way to end the album. Yeah, the track listing is just so good, and for me that's the reason why I can overlook the bad production on here, because yeah, the songs are all just so good. It makes it somewhat easy for me to do. And like I say, if you approach this album knowing full well that this is not a death metal album, you may find it easier to ignore the production yourself and just focus on how good the songs are. And speaking of which, I then have to choose which song I'm going to play from this. I could have chosen any one of them. They're all worthy of playing. But I am going to go with the one that starts side 2. This is Concession of Pain. There we go. Concession of Pain. It's a great song. It was actually the first Bolt Thrower song I ever heard because when I first played this album, yeah, I misread the label and I put side 2 on first. So there you go. But yeah, a great song, and like I say, hopefully, if you're not familiar with the band, you heard enough there to ignore the terrible production and yeah, look beyond that. So yeah, as I was saying about Honor Valor Pride always being number 8, this album is nearly always number 7 on all of these lists. So that's kind of the easy part of doing ranking the Bolt Thrower's discography done and dusted. Now it gets difficult with the remaining 6 albums, trying to put these into an order. Oh fucking hell! This is getting really hard. But I will persevere. So, at number 6, prepare for the first complaints, because I have For Victory. Now, it's like, don't get me wrong, this is a fucking great death metal album. There is no other way of describing it. It's a fucking great death metal album. But it is at number 6 because the other 5 they're just better. It's as simple as that. Yeah. I don't really know what more I can add to that. The front cover is, well, by Bolt Thrower standards, it's a bit bland. But, I think it works really fucking well. I think it's a great cover. I could even go so far as to say this is my favourite cover of all their albums, even though it is by some distance the most simplistic. Well, unless you go back to the John Peel Sessions one, but yeah, I'm talking about their actual studio albums. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Right, we go on to the back cover and we get the track listing, and what we get here is basically a list of immense death metal songs. By the time this album came along, Bolt Thrower had already kind of cemented their musical style. Lyrically, all of their songs were always about war, without exception. There wasn't a single song that Bolt Thrower recorded that was not about war in some way or other. But by the time this album came along, their music style was already sort of like set in concrete as well. They managed something which no other death metal band I've heard has ever done, and they've managed it with consummate ease, which is, as well as sounding like incredibly heavy, they also used a lot of extremely catchy riffs. I mean, there are some real earworms amongst Bolt Thrower's, discography. And also, I mean, they really were the masters of death metal riffing, because most of their songs used at least 4 different riffs throughout. And when it came to recording an album, these guys, they must have needed like a list of about 60 riffs per album, and yet they just kept on churning them out. It was like they never struggled as far as like writing a good riff. They got plenty of them down, and yeah, I've never heard any other death metal band come close to that kind of quantity and quality of riffs throughout throughout their songs, especially if we're talking 8 albums worth. So you, even if you are not a fan of them, in which case there's something wrong with you. But yeah, even if you're not a fan, you've got to give them their dues. They really did fucking nail it when it came to songwriting every time. And with this album, it absolutely follows everything that I just said. So War is just a short intro. The first real song is Remembrance. But I just got so many absolute monstrously heavy songs here. For Victory, which the title track, Graven Image, Lest We Forget, has gone down almost in history as another absolute bulk thrower classic. But for me, there is one song that does really stand out, and it took me about 3 seconds to choose which song from this album I was going to play. It's another one that has gone down in history as a bona fide bulk thrower classic. So this is the penultimate song from the album. This is Tank, or Tank Mark 1, if you want me to be pedantic. Just check this out. Oh yeah. There we go. Tank. What a fucking great song that is. It is a great album. No other way of describing it. And yet I've only got it at number 6, which says just how good the next albums, still to come are. So we go on to the next one then. So at number 5, I have Mercenary. Now, Mercenary comes in for a little bit of criticism, and I'll be honest, I used to be one of those people who did criticise it a bit, as thinking it wasn't quite up there with any of Bolt Thrower's previous albums. But having given it several subsequent listens through, I've completely come round to it. The reason most people sort of are not so keen on it is actually the reason why I've grown to really like it. And that is the production on it is, compared to, well, certainly everything that they did after In Battle Where There Is No Law, the production on this is not quite up there. It's a lot more raw compared to, well, anything, post Battle There Is No Law. But I love that. If you listen to this album on headphones, it really does sound like Bolt Thrower standing right next to you, just fucking playing away right there. And I love that. And it particularly applies to the drum sound they've got here. I love the drum sound on this. The cover is, it's okay, but yeah, it's not one of the better ones. But I mean, even Bolt Thrower's shit covers, well, if you're really going to call this shit, but even they're like not so great covers. There are some bands out there that only wish they had a cover like this. Anyway, we'll go on to the track listing, and I mean, it's much like For Victory. It's absolute monster classics from start to finish. I love the way that just about all of these songs start, and then when you get the drums, I say, kicking in, that raw production sound, I think it suits it really well. The guitars have not been overly produced either. There is still a bit of a rawness to them, but it fucking works. So this was, I'm pretty sure this was the first album that Bolt Thrower released after they left Earache. So this was released on Metal Blade Records, and this, I'll say, I have no problems with this album at all. The raw production that you will hear being criticised, I think it works really fucking well. Unfortunately, they didn't record a great deal with Metal Blade, but they did have a fucking good reason for it. Anyway, as far as the track listings go, there's I don't know where to start. There's just so many great ones here. Now, the song Powder Burns, number 6, I will come back to that a bit later on, but there is something particular about that one that really does make it stand out. But it's not the song that I am going to be playing here. Oh no. So it's quite a difficult choice actually, as far as like songs that I'm going to be playing from this album. But I ended up going with song number 2. So this really is a prime example of what I was saying earlier. Incredibly heavy and also incredibly catchy. This has a real catchy main riff to it. So yeah, song number 2, this is Laid to Waste. Well, there you go. What a song that is. I fucking love that song. I tell you, the more I hear that song in particular, but actually this entire album, I think I should have this album higher than number 5, you know. But then I look at the next albums that are coming. It's like I can't, you know. So number 5 it is for Mercenary. Oh well, onwards and upwards. So we go on to number 4, and at number 4 I have the War Master album. Now, I will freely admit, when I first heard this album, I was not impressed. But this album had a real impossible task. So this was their 3rd album. It was the first album they did that was out and out death metal. So from here on in, it was just death metal all the way with Bolt Thrower's, you know, output. It's also the last time, I think anyway, yeah, pretty sure it's the last time you heard any blast beats in any Bolt Thrower song. So from you know, so here it was, well, as far as, yeah, like the sheer speed, the end of an era, but it was also the beginning of a completely new era as Bolt Thrower moved into, you know, pure death metal. But this album really did have an impossible task. It was following on from Realm of Chaos, which, you know, I've said plenty of times, not just in this video, it's the heaviest album ever recorded as far as I'm concerned. So to try and follow that up was, well, as far as a lot of Bolt Thrower fans from the Realm of Chaos era were concerned, it was, as I say, a near impossible task. So when I first played it, I was like, what the fuck is this? It sounded really weak. Trust me, it is not really weak. And it is, and you know, this is a really heavy fucking album. No doubt about it. It's just that I was expecting Realm of Chaos Part 2. And we didn't get it. Because Bolt Thrower, instead of just like resting on their laurels, they wanted to progress. No one's going to argue with that, you know. So it did take a while for it to grow on me, but, you know, despite the fact that I wasn't so keen on the initial production and I wasn't so keen on the sound, you know, when I first heard it, there was no getting away from it. Song-wise, they had definitely progressed. Songs on here are fucking great. So many absolute fucking blinding tracks. The cover, I think, is fantastic. I think this is probably the best cover if we're talking about, you know, actual artwork rather than the atmospheric photograph of For Victory. Yeah, I love the cover of this. You know, I can't fault it. No one surely can look at that cover and say, no, that's shit. No way. You know, there's fucking something wrong with you if you are. So we'll go on to the back cover, which I've got from the CD version. So the track listing, I mean, it is again just classic after classic, you know, absolute legendary status, some of these songs. The intro, I love the intro and outro to this. It's simpler than was on the previous album. The previous album that was released, not the previous album, you know, going back to Mercenary. But yeah, the intro works really well. It really does set the atmosphere. And then we get Unleashed, brackets, Upon Mankind. What a fucking album opener. And it just doesn't let go, you know. We get Destructive Infinity here, which was the CD bonus track. First time I bought this album, I bought it on LP, so I didn't have that song. I think the song is good enough to warrant being on the LP, and I'm sure they could have fitted it onto the LP. So Earache were not above such sort of gimmicky things as having, like, you know, bonus tracks on CDs, especially around this time, and we're talking 1991. CDs were still relatively new, and so they wanted some way of getting people to shell out extra for the CD version rather than the LP. And what better way than putting on bonus songs, you know? Well, what better way as far as Earache concerned? As someone buying these albums, I always thought it was a bit cuntish, but there you go. Final Revelation, fantastic way of starting side 2. And then we get the song that really did become legendary, which is Cenotaph. And Cenotaph is the song that started a sort of running theme throughout Bulk Trail songs. The intro to Cenotaph and the outro, it fades in, fades out, playing the same riff. Then on the next album, there is a song that does that again. And then the album that came after that, was For Victory, and they didn't do it on there. But the next album after that, which was Mercenary, they did it again, and that was the song Powder Burns. They altered the riff slightly, but I do mean slightly. You could hear immediately what it was. And it got to a point where every Bulk Trail fan, you know, when a new album come out, they'd be looking through the track listing and trying to work out, okay, which is the one that has the Cenotaph intro. But it also meant that when it came to doing live shows, you basically got, like, you know, 4 and to the end 5 songs all following on from each other. It must have sounded fucking fantastic live. Last time I saw them live, it was only 3. It would be Cenotaph, song that I haven't reached yet. I think another song I haven't reached yet. Sorry, I'm getting it all mixed up. No, it would start with a song I've not reached yet, then go into Cenotaph, then the next song that hasn't been done yet. It was only the 3. So there were 2 more still to come. So at some point, it was a medley of 5 songs. Oh, that would have sounded fucking fantastic. Then we get the title track. For a lot of people, War Master is probably the greatest title track that Bulk Trail ever did. Not sure I agree. I think there's one that I would say is better. We haven't come to it yet, but yeah. And then the album ends with what I can only describe as a death metal masterpiece, and there was no doubt at all as to what song I was going to be choosing to play from this album. It is the album closer. Get ready for this. This is Afterlife. Oh, there we go. Oh, what a magnificent song that is. From the moment I first heard it, I mean, by the time I'd got to the last song, the production had started to grow on me already, and that song just, oh, it was fucking fantastic. I think that is one of the greatest death metal songs ever written. I really would go that far. Magnificent. Hard to beat it, and yet the album is only at number 4. So, well, it means we're really into the business end now. We go into the top 3. Couldn't have put it better myself. So, at number 3, it is Those Once Loyal, the last Bulk Thrower album to be released. It wasn't intended to be the last one, but sadly the drummer, and to my great shame I've forgotten his name, but yeah, sadly the drummer died, and the band made the decision to just call it quits. That was it, rather than try and replace him, which, you know, is a decision that I totally you know, go along with. I have no problem with that. I think anybody who, you know, does have a problem with that decision, I think the problem lies with them rather than with the band. Of course we all wanted them to carry on, and, you know, in a manner of speaking, they have done. Carl Willett's new band, who's so ashamed to say I've forgotten their name, but they are effectively Bulk Thrower 2.0. If you like Bulk Thrower, you will fucking love Carl Willett's new band. Go and check them out by all means. So yeah, this is the final album that Bulk Thrower ever released. Very different style of cover, but yeah, I think it works. It certainly puts across you know, what it's meant to. A scene from what I can assume is from World War One. Yeah, well done. So we'll go on to the track listing, and once again we have absolute, just stonewall magnificence. You know, really, really great death metal songs. These guys, I mean, this album was released in 2005, so it was 7 years after Mercenary. So even though it took a long time to come along, they haven't lost it. They were in the process of recording the next album, but they did admit themselves that the material that they were recording was not the best. And I think the reason why this album took so long was because they didn't want to just, you know, come up with an album that was just full of album filler. They wanted the songs to be good, and only then get ready to release the album. Again, a decision I totally go along with, because although we were waiting a long time for this album, it was well worth the fucking wait. This is absolutely just such a great one. Where do I start as far as the highlights of this? Well, I can tell you that the title track, Those Once Loyal, that's the one that I consider to be Bulk Thrower's best album title track. It's just an absolute, you know, it's brutal, which is exactly what you want from death metal. Anti-Tank, another fantastic song that very quickly, you know, became a Stonewall classic song. There are just so many on here. If you could say all of them, I could easily have played any of these songs, and it would have been a great way to illustrate it. But I decided to go with the song that has, well, for Bulk Thrower fans, a very familiar intro. And it is just absolutely glorious. Again, heavy as fuck, catchy as fuck. This is the Kill Chain. There we go. What a song that is. and like I said, I could have chosen any song from this album. I very nearly chose Anti-Tank, but in the end, no, this one just won out. But you know, if you like that song, you're gonna love this fucking album. If you've not got any Bulk Thrower albums at all, then even though I've only got this at number 3, if you're just gonna be starting to check them out, this is the album to start with. You know, it's real proper old school death metal played at its finest. Yeah, I just cannot fault it at all. Great stuff. But only at number 3, as I say. So, well, what do we have at number 2 then? At number 2 we have The Fourth Crusade, which was Shock Horror, Bulk Thrower's 4th album. And let's address something about this first. There are several people out there who've done videos who don't rate this album. And I can see why they don't, even though I don't agree in the slightest. This is, just like War Master before it, this is out and out death metal. But they slowed down their tempo, no blast beats at all in this. And it was the first Bulk Thrower album to never have any blast beats throughout any of their songs. I don't think it suffers for that at all. If you watch, especially the top 40 greatest metal songs of all time video that I did, you heard me say on several occasions that if a death metal band wanted to sound their heaviest, you don't speed up, you slow down. And this, for me, is an album that absolutely proves that. So, you know, yeah, if you are one of the death metal fans that wants the speed and the aggression in death metal, then I can see why you're not going to rate this one so highly. But I like the slowing it down, so you really do emphasise how heavy the songs are and how heavy the sound that you've got is. And yeah, it just works for me, you know. As far as the production goes, I think this is possibly the best album that they did. Production is absolutely nailed on. Everything is done absolutely like spot on. Got no complaints about the production at all. I mean, it is an absolute fantastic death metal album. Possibly the greatest death metal album ever recorded. Certainly up there, even though it's only at my number 2. But, well, when we get to number 1, I'll explain why in a minute. The cover, I can't remember the name of the painting that it comes from. I think the painting may even be called The Fourth Crusade. I know obviously it is related to the Crusades. I don't know who the painter is. I'm sure someone out there can tell me. It's fantastic cover, fantastic artwork. You know, from back in the day when painters would actually paint stuff instead of just throwing a can of paint at a fucking sheet of canvas. Yeah, I love the car. Got no complaints about that. Onto the back cover and the track listing. Unfortunately, track listing is not very easy to see. That's not a fault of this particular image I have. That was always the case, actually. I don't know why they chose to put it like that, but yeah, they did. So the album opener really does set out the stall, crushingly heavy, but also, I say, quite slow tempo, and that's what you're going to get all the way through. So you know, if you love the opening track, you're going to love the album. If you think the opening track is a bit, then you may as well forget the rest of the album. Song number 3, Embers. This is the song with the Cenotaph intro. And when I went to see them say at least a couple of times when they were promoting this album, they yeah, we would have Unnamed Song first, followed by Cenotaph, followed by Embers. It's just played along as one, like, yeah, one 3-part medley. Always sounded fucking great. We have, I don't know how many classics here. Yeah, Ritual. Yeah, Spearhead, the single, not the extended remix here. This is the original one. So my only sort of problem with Spearhead is I think it's a bit too long. The album is actually relatively long. It's I think it's close to 50 minutes. But unlike On a Valor Pride, this has enough songs to kind of justify being, say, near 50 minutes play length. Yeah, where else I'll be talking about the classic songs. Dying Creed, another one. Through the Ages, which is the outro, is I think this is great. It's again very slow tempo. Carl Willis is speaking throughout it. It's not like death metal vocal style. It's basically giving you like a history lesson, the history of war. I think it's a great great way to end the album. But as far as which song to choose to play, it's so fucking difficult to choose one from here. I mean, Icon, say Embers, which I mentioned, Ritual, Spearhead itself. These are all fucking great songs. But in the end, I've gone with song number 4 from the Fourth Crusade. So this is Where Next to Conquer.
Intentions, misplaced in time.
So there we go. As I keep saying after these songs, what a fucking magnificent song that is. Again, extremely heavy, but also again extremely catchy. It's you can see why that became a Bolt Thrower trademark, and you are hearing exactly what I say when I said they did it so well. It's an absolute fucking masterpiece, but not my number one. So I mean, if you're familiar with Bolt Thrower's work, you will know which album is left. Any of you who know me will not be remotely surprised by my choice. So at number one, it is Realm of Chaos. I've already said it a few times in this video. The heaviest album ever fucking recorded. I genuinely never thought I'd hear an album like this. The production is absolutely immense. The guitars were down tuned to A when they were recording this. The strings were beginning to, well, they weren't taut, and I think on the bass guitar they were genuinely starting to slacken a bit, down tuned so much. And when you consider that death metal bands will usually down tune to D, sometimes C, this is like down tuned down to A, for fuck's sake. It's no wonder it sounds so fucking heavy, because it does have a bit of a drawback, which is if you're going to be doing solos and you're trying to put vibrato onto any of the notes you're playing, really difficult to do when you're playing with the strings not all that taut. You can kind of tell with the solos here. The solos are not very adventurous because they are limited by how much they've down tuned them. I don't care about that one bit, as I've mentioned millions and one times before. I'm not a big fan of guitar solos, so the fact that guitar solos are limited and quite short, I've got no problem with that at all. The album itself is quite short. It's only about 35 minutes, but it is so uncompromising. It is so fucking crushing. It is so fucking heavy that 35 minutes, I think, is the perfect playing time for this. And again, if you want to hear it more, just play the album again. This business of making albums, 70 odd minutes long. Fuck off. Magnificent cover. This is the original cover. If you were to buy the album now, the cover's changed because the copyright thing with Games Workshop. This album was released in conjunction with Games Workshop and the Warhammer 40k thing. The cover has now changed because that whole agreement long since ended. The new cover is all right, but it's not a patch on this, so I didn't even bother downloading it. I specifically looked for this cover. This is the one you want. So let's go on to the back cover and the track listing. As you can see, I've got the LP version here. The intro, as I said earlier, I prefer the intro and outro of War Master. Doesn't mean this don't work though. The intro really does sort of set the atmosphere well, but it just does not prepare you for the absolute fucking onslaught that you get as the song Eternal War starts, the first song proper, and it just absolutely, I mean, it just bludgeons the listener, but in a great way. Through the Eye of Terror is very stop-start. It's the weakest song on the album, but it's okay, but I mean that song, there must be a good dozen different riffs in it, so it doesn't have a great deal of structure to it. It's 4 bars without drums, 4 or 8 bars with drums, and then the riff changes, and it does it all the way through. So I say very stop start, but I mean if you like riffs, then there's a good chance you're going to like it. But there are certainly 2 or 3 riffs in there. I just think, oh, I wish they carried on with that one, you know, instead of just changing it again. Dark Millennium is yeah, it's another one. It doesn't. I don't remember hearing it being played at any of the shows I went to, but it's another one that I wish they did. All That Remains has one of the most unique guitar solos I've ever heard. The guitars really do sound like they are screaming out in pain. They also sound like they're like trying to mimic the sound of, like, you know, laser weapons being fired. So bear in mind the Warhammer 40k connection here. It works really well, actually. All That Remains is a bit of a slow burner. It starts off really slow, but as it goes on and on and on, and then so you get to the ending there with the laser fire and the screaming guitars and that, it fucking works great. It's a great way to end side 1. And I mean side 2, Jesus Christ, where do you start? It's just immense from start to finish. Lost Souls Domain, what a great way to start the album, or start side 2. Plague Bearer, again, Plague Bearer is one that did a bit like Dark Millennium. It kind of got a bit forgotten. I can't for the life of me see why. World Eater, I mean, what can I say about that song that hasn't already been said? The definitive Bulk Thrower song, and deservedly so, and this is the version you want to hear. Never mind World Eater 94 on Who Dares Wins. This is the one to play. I'm not going to be playing this one in this video because, again, if you saw the the 40 greatest metal songs of all time video, in part 2 I play it in that. So, you know, if you're not familiar with it, go and check out that video. But yeah, that's the only reason why I'm not playing it in this, because I've already played it in a previous video. Because believe me, as great as I think all the songs are, World Eater is the song that picks itself. If you're going to choose a song from Realm of Chaos to play, that's the one every time. Drowning Torment is a song that, again, I think deserves much more recognition than it gets. It's relatively short. Like I say, the whole album is relatively short. It's like 35 minutes. But, yeah, fantastic. Realm of Chaos is another one that became, you know, absolute stalwart of Bulk Throwers live shows. Many people, you know, consider it to be one of their finest. I think it's a great song. There's no two ways about it. I think they have done better, but yeah, it's I mean, it is still fucking superb. Because this is the LP track listing, this one is missing the bonus track, which came after the title track, actually, after Realm of Chaos. As much as I hate to admit it, I forgot the fucking title of it, so I'm gonna have to look it up while I am here. So it is Prophet of Hatred. You can tell that it's a bonus track, because even though, I mean, it's a fucking great song, don't get me wrong, but the intro, you've got the 1, 2, 3, 4 and the, you know, starting up, so clearly it was never intended actually, I don't know if it was even intended to appear on the album, but it did as a CD bonus track, and it is a great song that yeah, I mean, there are no shit songs on this album, plain and simple. I mean, I've said that about just about every album of theirs that I've covered here, but of all the albums, it absolutely applies to this one. it's not an out-and-out death metal album. There are still a lot of hardcore and even still some crust punk elements within the album here, which is why when I was saying about Fourth Crusade, that could well be the greatest death metal album recorded, because this is not an out-and-out death metal album. This is still a bit of a crossover. But there's a lot more death metal in this than there was in the previous album, In Battle There Is No Law. So Boltfire were clearly progressing, and what a fucking rate of progression to go from In Battle There Is No Law to this. So which song do I choose to play out with? Well, it is not an easy choice, but I'll say, because I'd already played World Eater, I'm not going to play that. So I'm going to go with the song that comes after it. So this is Drowned in Torment, the song number 8, I believe. Song number 9 from the album. So I will play out with that one, and yeah, that is my Boltfire discography, you know, and how I would rank them. No surprise, I say, about my choice of number 1. No big surprise about my numbers 7 and 8. The order of, you know, the rest of them, that's where you're going to get the most variation among people doing videos of, you know, Boltfire's discographies. Do you agree? Probably not. So, you know, if you are familiar enough with this lot to come up with your own ranking, then by all means stick it in the comments. I might read it. But in the meantime, yes, here we go with Drowned in Torment, and after that, Go Away.
You can't say